What's up, guys? Welcome to today's video. Hope you guys are all having a great week so far. It's currently Wednesday afternoon. It's about 1 p.m. right now. I'm actually gonna immediately upload this video once I am done filming and editing it. Today's video is going to be a kind of just an overall financial topic, and this is something that I've wanted to talk about for some time now, but I finally took a couple hours yesterday breaking this entire video down. So I have a PDF for you guys that I'm kind of gonna run through, explain to you my thoughts on how to retire, not by I think I have in the title like retire by 30. It's probably what I'll make it, but this is kind of like a not specifically for a set age. It's more so like planning ahead next 5-10 years so you can retire when you want to, because I know some people watching this video, it's already, I'm 27. If I try to retire by 30, that only gives me 3 years. So this is more so just a video overall and setting a goal to retire at a certain age. I have a lot of really good topics on here, a lot of really good ideas that will kind of open your mind and kind of make you realize that it's not as hard as a lot of people say. It's not as hard as a lot of people think it is. So I'm going to be breaking it down in a few different categories here, and let's just jump right into it. I don't really have a direction for this video, so hopefully this PDF will help me out a little bit. But here we go, guys. How much money do you need to retire? Basically, another word for this is how much money you need invested in order to live basically off your investments only. The way I always like to do this is work backwards. Start with how much you want to live off every single year. That's going to be the first thing that you want to figure out is, okay, I want to retire. Well, how much do you want to retire with? What's your goal every single month and every single year on how much you want to spend to retire off of? A lot of people is, if I spend $8,333 a month, that's plenty enough for me to retire. That's $100,000 a year if you times that by 12. Some people can live less than that. Some people can live off $50,000 a year, which is very, very plausible, which you only need about $150 a month to do that. So some people want more. Some people want $200,000, $300,000, $400,000, $500,000. The first thing you want to do is figure out what your annual income needs to be in order to retire. And then the next thing is set a time frame. So a time frame is going to be very important, because once you have that goal in mind of how much you need to retire off of, it's going to basically require you to figure out how much you need to save each and every month in order to achieve that threshold of how much you need invested. So let's say you need $2 million of active funding invested, whatever you're investing in. You need to figure out how long it's going to take you to save up $2 million and how much you need to save each and every month in order to achieve that from the time frame that you want to do. So if you want to retire in 5 years and you want to retire off of $1 million, you need to figure out how long or how much money you're going to have to save each and every month from your income in order to achieve that $1 million savings within the next 5 years here. So I'm not going to talk too much about that. That's kind of like side equations that you guys can figure out on your own. If you do have any questions about how to calculate that, message me down, or you can email me. I don't really mind. Or you can just comment down below, and that way everyone can see my responses. So an example of like set a time frame and goal based on current income and spending. From there, work on ways to get there as fast as possible. An example of this is you can spend less, which means save more. You can make more, or you can just save more money, which is a combination of both things, where you can make more money and then you can spend less money as well. My main goal and my thought process for the last 5 years has been, until I can reach this goal of mine that I've had for a very, very long time, I am going to spend as little as possible and live as frugal as possible. It's obviously going to be the fastest way to get you there. If you guys are comfortable retiring, I keep saying retiring, but if you guys are comfortable living off your investments only in 20, 30, 40 years from now, then you can spend more freely. But if you're someone like me that wants to kind of reach this pathway as fast as possible, saving as much as possible, living as frugal as possible for a short period of time, and then the rest of your life, essentially, you can kind of be a little bit more, enjoy it a little bit more, be a little bit more flexible, be a little bit less stressed about spending money. So that's the way I'm approaching it. I'm trying to reach this pathway as fast as possible, which means spend less, save more. Now, this is the interesting part. This is where you guys really want to, it really opened my eyes up as well when I started running these calculations here, because I knew I had to have a certain amount invested based off just a very general idea of, if I make 12% annualized return on my money, that's going to yield me this amount each and every year indefinitely. Some of these pathways is like, I really, really like them. I actually have quite a bit of these pathways. I have my money spread out, not just under one thing. Like obviously I have my rental properties, which you guys have seen before. I have 3 of them. I don't have any hard money loans right now, but it's something that I do want to get into once I have even more capital, where I can kind of throw some money in that pathway and kind of just diversify my investments a little bit more. I obviously have a lot of money in BlockFi interest account right now, which is an extremely steady 7.5%. They just dropped theirs. I just pulled a dividend as well, just a random dividend stock that's a blue chip stock, so it's very popular. AT&T pays their current dividend at this specific moment is 7.2%. So there's so many different pathways you guys can take. We're just going to run through them right now. The NASDAQ Composite. This consists of basically a lot of technology-based companies. The NASDAQ 100, which is a top 100 technology-based companies, basically controls like the majority of the NASDAQ Composite. And we've seen over the last 10 years, these are 10-year returns, by the way, 10-year averaged returns. That's just kind of, I thought was a fair number. I could have done a 20-year return, but 10 years seems fair enough to me. 5 years, there's a little bit too much fluctuations on the current state of the economy. 10 years, I felt like it's a little bit more balanced. So the 10-year average return on the NASDAQ Composite, if you invested in that, would be 22.34%. So if you want to basically live off $100,000 a year and you were in the NASDAQ Composite, you would only have needed $447,000 invested, actively invested. Keep in mind, you can't pull any of this money out. You're just pulling out the money that you make each and every month from this. So that $447,000 cannot drop below that. Otherwise, you're making less than your goal, which is $100,000 a year. So to get that into perspective for you guys, if you wanted to make $100,000 every single year completely passively, you would only need $447,000 invested. Keep in mind the NASDAQ's the stock market, so it does have a lot of fluctuations. It's not the most consistent thing, so it probably was a little bit stressful over the last 5, 10, 15 years if you were invested in that. But there's also definitely more conservative pathways, which actually leads me to rental properties. I did the average here because there's no certain return, like there's no set number of returns you're going to get on rental properties. If you have rental properties in the Midwest, your return on your investment or your cash on cash return is most likely easily in 20% or above, but you're also not getting any sort of appreciation whatsoever in a lot of those properties. Out of my 3 rental properties, I kind of just did an average of about 14.5%. Some of my student rentals, or my one student rentals, upwards, I believe close to 22% return, but then I have my family resident down the street, which is way less than 14%. So it averages out to about 14.5% every single year return on my money that I have invested in there. So if I wanted to retire basically off of my rental properties alone, or rental properties, I would have to have $689,000 of my own money actively invested in rental properties. Obviously, this is actually a little bit better because as time increases, rental prices increase, but the amount of money invested into these homes actually stays the same. So your average return annually would most likely go up a little bit, which means you have to have less invested. But if I'm making 14.5% on my investment properties, it doesn't matter how many investment properties I have. I can have 10 investment properties yielding me 14.5%. You just have to have $690,000 essentially, whether it be just one big property, one big complex, or 10 different smaller complexes that are worth $60,000. The number you want to see right here is $690,000 invested. Moving on, S&P 500 10-year average 13.82%. Hard money loans. This is something I want to talk about because a lot of people overlook this. Hard money loans are a very consistent way of making money. My business partner and my roommate, actually, Ricky, he constantly has about $1 million out every single month in hard money loans. So he's making over 6 figures every single year. So he has, like I said, hard money loans. He has over $1 million. So he's making over $100,000 a year, completely passively loaning other people his money. This is, I would say, a pretty safe bet as long as the people you're investing to, you're very comfortable with them. They're conservative investors and you know you're going to get your money back. If you start doing more riskier investments with your hard money loans, then you start running into problems. But someone like Ricky, where he's very confident in who he invests to, he has had 12% annualized returns, which is 1% a month on his money. That's what he charges. Some hard money loans, the riskier they are, the higher the interest rate's going to be. And then you obviously have hard money loans where people are willing to loan out their money for less of an annualized return. So you could get hard money loans at 8%, but I'd say the average, and what Ricky does is my example, he does 12% annualized, meaning he makes 12% on his money. If you want to make $100,000 a year on that, you need $833,000 actively invested. BlockFi interest. This is by far the safest, I would say, because it's a guaranteed return on your investment. There's not really any fluctuations unless they're going to drop the interest rate, which is very possible. But right now, 7.5% guaranteed every single year is what you're making on this. If I just wanted to park my money in here, I would need $1.33 million to make $100,000 from just interest sitting in that BlockFi interest account. The only risk you have is them just lowering the interest rate, but it's not necessarily a risk. You're just going to be making less money on your money. So you want to keep that in mind. I have a lot of my money parked here right now until I buy my next house, which update, I think I'm closing on a house in September. Very excited about that. If you guys do want links for that, it will be down in the description below. So check out BlockFi. I love them. AT&T dividend. This is a blue chip stock. I knew AT&T had a high dividend, so I kind of just pulled a random stock. But my point for this is dividend stocks are another really, really good approach. It doesn't matter what kind of stock it is. Every single stock is going to have a different percent of return on their dividends. So you do want to keep that in mind. This is strictly dividend. It's not the appreciation of the actual stock itself. Something like Apple has had way higher returns than AT&T, but it's not because of their dividend. It's because of just the actual stock itself has continued to grow in price. Although Apple does have a dividend, it doesn't pay nearly as much as AT&T. But if you were to invest in Apple, you would have made more money than AT&T. I'm just going on dividends because it's very, very conservative and it's guaranteed percent. Once again, unless they drop their dividend percentage or dividend returns. So if you wanted to invest in AT&T and literally just park your money in that stock, whether the stock goes up or down, you should be getting 7.2% on your money, which is $1.388 million needed to invest. The 10-year bond, very safe, very conservative. The current is 1.47%. So if you wanted to invest in a 10-year bond, $6.8 million you need to invest. And the final one right here, which I absolutely despise of, I do not like high interest savings accounts. It kind of like tricks people into thinking that they're actually like saving money when you can park your money literally in any of these other options and have an insanely high return. Like you're getting on the average, like a high yield savings account is 0.5%. We're talking like if you invested in the NASDAQ, that is basically 44 times. If you invested in NASDAQ, you would have 44x your return rather than parking in a high yield savings account. Yes, it's a safer bet. It's very safe, obviously, but I consider all these that I talked about a pretty safe and conservative investment strategy. Yes, some of them are more fluctuating than others. But if you wanted to park your money in high interest savings account, you would need $20 million to make $100,000 a year. So keep that in mind. You can have $447,000 if you invested in NASDAQ, or you can invest $20 million and make the same amount of money every single year on your returns. So I'm not saying go invest in the NASDAQ because, like I said, it's a very volatile situation, especially nowadays with the stock market. But there's just kind of, I hope this video is kind of makes you open your eyes a little bit and explore different pathways of investing. You don't have to, it kind of just makes you realize that you don't need that much money invested if you invest it in the right ways. And that's $100,000. I know a lot of people that can live off $50,000. So if you want to live off $50,000, literally cut any of these numbers in half right here, and that is what you need. That's pretty much it, guys. If you guys did want the equation, I'm sure there's an easier way to figure this out, but it's been like 10 years since I've taken a math class. So you do 100 divided by your annual return. So you do 100, let's say you're trying to figure out what you want for the NASDAQ. You do 100 divided by 22.34. Times that by your annual income of what you want. So if you want to make $200,000, you're going to do 100 divided by 22.34 times 200,000, and that is the amount needed in order to retire. The main thing here is run everything backwards. Figure out how much you want to retire off. Figure out how long it's going to take you to reach that goal of what you need invested in order to get there. Start setting a plan for how much you need to save every single month. And once you get those goals in place, it becomes way more realistic. And like I said, it's a snowball effect. It happens faster and faster. The more you save, the faster you start to make more passive income, and you'll get there way sooner than what you think. On top of that, you're also making your earned income as well. So I hope this video is able to help you guys out. And please drop a like. I really do appreciate it. If I missed anything, comment down below. I'm happy to help you guys. And then as always, I'm a licensed real estate agent out here in Arizona. That's what I do full time. I am a real estate investor. I own rental properties, I flip properties, and I'm also a very investor friendly real estate agent. That's pretty much all I focus on, is working with investors, mainly out of state, to get them passive income sources through rental properties or investment properties here in Arizona. Thanks, guys. I'll see you soon.